In the 1920s, the White River of the Arkansas Delta was home to the River People, a distinct society of houseboat dwellers who lived entirely outside the socio-economic boundaries of the land-dwelling drylanders. Because conventional law enforcement rarely reached the water, these communities followed a strict internal code called river justice. It was a system of direct communal equity, where wrongs were settled through reciprocal action rather than external courts. Helen Spence grew up immersed in this environment. She was raised in a culture that was remarkably egalitarian and matriarchal for the era, where survival depended on personal honor and mutual reliance. For a community existing beyond state protection, this localized code wasn't a matter of lawlessness. It was the only mechanism they had to maintain social order and ensure their safety. This world collided with the state in 1930, when a man named Jack Wuerls shot Helen's father, Cicero, rolled him overboard into the river, and then assaulted her stepmother, Ada. Ada survived long enough to identify Wuerls, but she died weeks before the trial. When the case finally reached court in DeWitt, the judge ruled Ada's dying declarations inadmissible due to a procedural legal technicality. With Ada gone and Helen legally too young to testify, the prosecution was left with no adult eyewitnesses. Jack Wuerls was poised to walk free on a claim of self-defense. The state had asserted a monopoly on justice, only to prove itself incapable of delivering it. By failing to account for a double homicide, the institutional system left a void that the Code of the River was designed to fill. On the final day of the trial, 18-year-old Helen sat in the front row of the courtroom, wearing a red velvet suit she had sewn herself. As the judge finished his instructions, Helen stood up, drew a pro-handled pistol from a white fur muff, and shot Jack Wuerls dead. When the sheriff took her into custody, she offered a single sentence: "He killed my daddy." This booking photo shows the girl behind the national headlines. While newspapers across the country romanticized her as a girl Avenger, the teenage orphan was entering a legal system far more predatory than the courtroom she had just left. Public support secured her a quick parole, but she was released into a system of debt peonage. A wealthy landowner paid the state a $1,000 bond for her release, effectively purchasing her as an indentured servant. This diagram shows how the bond payment worked. Under this loophole, the landowner gained absolute authority over the prisoner, who was forced into domestic or agricultural labor to work off a debt they could never afford to pay. To escape her sponsor, Helen walked into a Little Rock police station 5 days later and confessed to the unsolved murder of a restaurant owner who had sexually harassed her. She chose public incarceration over private enslavement. By claiming a crime the state had previously cleared her of, she used the only tool she had left to regain control over her own body. Helen was sentenced to 10 years of hard labor at the Arkansas State Farm for Women, colloquially known as the P Farm. The facility functioned as a center for human trafficking. Prison matrons routinely organized transports of female inmates to Memphis, forcing them into prostitution for the direct financial benefit of the administration. To maintain discipline, the prison used the trustee system, arming convicted male murderers and granting them unchecked power over the female population. Helen resisted the system by escaping repeatedly. Inside a restroom during a prison transport, she turned her gingham uniform inside out, revealing a civilian dress she had secretly sewn into the lining, and she simply walked away undetected. Each recapture resulted in 20 lashes with a heavy leather strap. When the beatings caused a severe kidney infection, the prison doctor administered punitive medical douches and heavy doses of morphine to keep her physically compliant. Finally, the administration placed her in a 6-by-10-foot wooden cage built specifically for her. She was kept outdoors, exposed to the Arkansas summer sun, and released only for meals under heavy guard. The facility was built to extract labor and ensure absolute submission. Every escape attempt was met with escalating physical and psychological attempts to break a woman the system could not commodify. In July 1934, Helen initiated her final escape. She obtained a revolver belonging to one of the trustee guards, a weapon she reportedly found left accessible near her cage. The following day, Assistant Superintendent V.O. Brockman and trustee guard Frank Martin intercepted her on a rural dirt road. Martin, a convicted murderer himself, shot Helen instantly. While the officials claimed self-defense, The autopsy showed Helen was shot in the back of the head. The revolver she had allegedly used to threaten them was still tucked into her clothing, unfired. Her friends from the river community infiltrated the funeral home at night, stole her remains, and buried her in a secret, unmarked plot. They planted a single cedar tree to mark the location. Shortly after the guard Frank Martin was paroled for the shooting, he bought a loaf of bread from a local store run by river affiliates. He ate the bread and died that night. The local community maintained that the river had simply taken its own justice. Within a year of Helen's death, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers began damming the White River. Eviction notices were served to the houseboat communities, ending a century of river life. Helen Spence's life ended at 22, just as the environment that produced her was being dismantled. Her story remains a testament to a culture that preferred its own code of honor to a state system it could not trust.